Hi, this is part 4 of our ongoing series about refinishing the castings for NuTone IS69 entry door stations. In part 3, I showed the types of primer and other spray equipment that I bought to do the work with. In the past couple of days, I was able to have time to prime our example IS69 front door casting. And this is the end result. When I was practicing doing the priming to learn how the equipment worked best and the best techniques to do it with, I started off with some basic rectangles of just galvanized sheet metal. Very inexpensive, very easy to do, and the end result, and I'm sure it's very hard to see on the video, the end result is very good. It's smooth, it's not textured because it was sprayed in properly. It doesn't have a lot of orange peel in it. In the finish itself, it seems to be pretty smooth, and some of that I attribute to luck, and the rest of it I attribute to having a good quality product to spray. I had several people ask me, why did you buy such an expensive product as this to do the priming with? This quart of primer, this is a 2-part epoxy primer, the other part's the hardener, and there's some thinner which is not relevant, but this can right here was $80, and then the hardener and the other stuff. So altogether for a paint product, well over $110 worth of paint product. And one person said, oh, you could have just done it with a spray can. And no, I don't think so. What we're going for here is a professional quality, high level finish, and you're not going to get that with a spray can. Sure, if you're doing your own and you want to spray it with a spray can, that's great. It's your door speaker. You can do that if you want. It's on the front of your house. But if we're doing this to offer these to sell to people as replacements for their old weathered and damaged ones, it's got to be good. It's got to be a 9.98 out of 10. Otherwise, people will complain and they won't think it's done well enough, or if it begins to weather and fail in some way, because you can't get this type of product and this type of finish out of a spray can you buy at the hardware store for $4. You just can't. So it's got to be better than that, and that's why I went through the expense for the equipment and for the product to actually do this with. That being said, I think this turned out really well. This actually, so I did the back and the front, because if we're going to do this, I want it to be done well. Now the back is not nearly as important as the front, because once you install it and you mount it on your wall, you're not going to see it and people don't care about it too much, and the back's not exposed to the weather in any real way, so that was easy. The front was a little trickier. This actually has 2 coats on it, because what I learned the first time I did this was you can buy the world's best and most expensive product, but unless you have some experience and some practice and you've actually done it, you don't know how it's actually going to go. And I learned a lot the very first time, and so after I let this dry for 24 hours, the finish was not as even as I would have liked. Down here on the bottom, it was a little grainy or a little sandy because it didn't get enough paint. There were a couple little spots that it seemed kind of thin, so I very carefully sanded it with some 1000 grit wet dry sandpaper, and then cleaned it all off, set everything up again, and sprayed it more deliberately and more carefully the second go around, and then let it dry for 24 hours. And this is what we ended up with, and I think it turned out pretty well. Of course, along with the casting, we have to have the other bits and pieces to finish it off. So this is the original grill material, and if you look carefully, you can actually see through it because of all the little holes. There was some concern when I talked to the fella at the paint store about this, because he was concerned that the primer would fill up all the little holes, and then of course it wouldn't be acoustically transparent, and that won't work as a speaker grill. However, what I did was I dialed back the amount of paint that the spray gun would deliver, and then went over it very carefully and somewhat lightly to make sure the holes didn't get filled up. And there was 1 or 2 little spots where there was a little bit, and all I did was hold it up and blow on it and blow the paint out of the hole a little bit, and that was fine. Part of it doesn't matter too much, because around here on the edge And up the middle here, this is where the adhesive tape will hold it in place. So these areas here, it doesn't matter whether, you don't want the holes plugged up, but it doesn't matter if they're not as clear as the center part where the sound comes out. But all in all, they all turned out clear, and that worked out well. Of course, in the end, this will get fixed right there. And then we have our little insert panel with a hole for the mounting screw and a hole for the push button. And in the end, this will go right here. He did have, being an auto body paint and supply business, he did have some really good quality 3M double-sided emblem tape, and I think that we're going to try that and see how that works to stick these down. He said, quote, if you use it on painted surfaces, make sure you get it lined up straight the first time because you might not be able to get it off. So it should hold pretty well. The other thing I noticed, which I spoke with him about when I went in the first time to buy the primer, is in the casting, like in the surface right here, and you won't be able to see this, but it is there. There are little tiny pits in the casting. And I assume that when this was a polished brass plated door station when I started, and I'm assuming that the 3 coats of plating that they put on it before, or the 2 coats before the brass, fills up the little pitting, and maybe the pitting is a little bit, it's a defect in the casting, and then the bead blasting maybe exaggerates it a little bit. I'm not exactly sure. He felt that the primer would be enough to fill in the pits, and while with 2 coats, for the most part it did or does, but I can still see in the reflection the littlest, tiniest little pits. They're almost as if someone took a little straight pin and went poke, 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 poke here and there. He said that most likely when we do the finish coat on it, it will cover it up and you won't see it, but to make sure in the future, because we're going to do a lot of these. The next go around after the sample, we're going to do probably 25 of them all together. So I picked up this. This is a glazing putty. And this is what they use in auto body shops after they Bondo the heck out of your fender and they sand it all and make it all straight and everything. And then if they go and they prime it, and then there's a little air bubble-y holes in the Bondo stuff, then you can use this, and they use a spatula kind of thing and they put it on. He said this will work really well. You can just simply put a little bit where the pits are, you let it dry, then you sand it off, and then you prime it, and you won't see it. So that will make it much easier and probably give me a better final result. All in all, I'm very happy with this. I think this turned out really well. I took this in with me when I went into the shop this week to show it to him, and he thought it looked pretty good. He didn't find any real flaws on it. He expects that it will paint up very nicely. And then the next step will be the finish coat, the color coat on it. There have been a lot of discussion at the shop and with other people I value their opinions with about what color this should be, and color selection is tricky and you never know what's going to be popular. I decided to do something a little bolder. No, it won't be red or green. I decided that we wanted to do something that was very similar to like an oil rub bronze type of look. In here is the paint I chose, and you would be surprised how many different colors there are of paint in the world. He had a paint chip rack for automotive colors. I bet there were easily 8,000 or 9,000 different colors. There's like white, 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 and another kind of white. So it's pretty crazy, and you have to look through them all very carefully. But with his help narrowing down sort of the general type of color I was looking for, I chose a color that I thought would be a good match. We'll see what it looks like once you paint it. It's called Mocha Bronze, or it's also referred to as Double Espresso. I think if we advertise these as being finished in Double Espresso, people might actually want to buy them. If things go well, this will happen in the next couple of days. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do one of my big sheets. I actually did 4 of these in primer to get some practice in on them. So one of these will be the Double Espresso or Mocha Bronze, and then we'll go ahead and paint our speaker cast. Now, this is the part where I need your input. I've had a lot of people contact me about this. I have some people already on a waiting list. They want to know how this is coming along, and it's something they need, and they want a replacement like the one they had before in a different finish and all those sort of things. But I need some help from people. I need opinions on what colors we should be doing. I think we need to have 4 colors. The general idea is we need a bronzy kind of color. Hopefully this will be a good choice. We definitely need a white because white is very popular, and I think we've already maybe settled on a white that would be popular. It was suggested to me by 3 different people. Surprisingly enough, the color they suggested was BMW Alpine White. And yes, they all did drive white BMWs, but that's how people are. It's a nice bright white. I think it would be as good a white as any other kind of white. And then we have the other 2 that we have to figure out if we're going to have 4. The fellow at the paint supply store, he suggested perhaps a darker like charcoal gray, which could be popular. Then it occurred to me perhaps maybe a silver or something like that. It wouldn't be shiny like chrome, it would be a painted silver, maybe with some metallic in it or not, I don't know. It depends on what people want on their front porch. I'm not exactly sure. If you could, down in the comments down below, give me in the order of preference your 4 best choices for colors that you would actually buy for your house. That would be helpful because we are keeping track, and it is a big decision. You know, you don't want to paint a whole bunch of speakers in silver and then find out that, well, everybody hates silver and nobody wants to buy it. There's going to be part 5 coming up pretty soon. We're going to talk about speaker castings and things like that, and that'll be coming up to a YouTube channel near you very soon. I hope you found this interesting and perhaps it'll be helpful. If it is, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube. Don't forget, in the comments down below, tell me about colors. I really need to know. There'll be a banner right here that shows you how to subscribe. Go to our YouTube homepage, click on the bell, and click on the bell to receive all notifications, and every time we publish a new video, you'll get a notification and you can watch it. That's all for today. See you on the next video.